And Senator Betty Little joins us now. Welcome. It's good to see you again.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
The new legislative session is underway in Albany, and the political landscape has changed pretty dramatically, with the Democrats now in power, controlling both the Assembly and the Senate for the first time in a decade. And it means changes. It means changes for you, for your ranking on committees, cuts to your budget and to your staff, and you've decided you have to close the Plattsburgh field office as part of it?
We are, and it's hard to do, but we also had to reduce salaries, and Paul retired and is just working part-time.
Paul Maroon,
who's in Tupper Lake.
Of course, in Tupper Lake, and
but
working part-time in Plattsburgh.
We're going to have like a mobile office and come up to the county building once a month, or maybe 1 month in Plattsburgh and the next month in Malone. And also, it'll give me an opportunity and really force me to get out and go to more of the businesses and meet people at their place of work. Hopefully we'll do everything we can. I'll still be up here a lot.
Is it unfair in a way, or is this what politics is like in Albany? And is this what the Democrats had to deal with the many years that the Republicans have been in control?
Absolutely. It is what it is. It'd be nice if it were different. You make the best of it, that's all. You have to. But it is different because the majority, it's always been so close, and then we also worked with the independent Democrat group. 6 of them got beat in primaries, 6 of the 8. So only 2 of them remain in the legislature, in the Senate. And the Democrat Senate actually has 15 new members. Young members, very interesting people, but all ready to go for it. And so it's interesting to watch, but they have a majority of 8, so they can really rule.
And when you talk about
and they are.
Being gung-ho, a lot's been happening in the first month of the session. We've seen a flurry of bills passed by the majority. Abortion laws, new gun control measures, early voting. With the gun control, are you opposed to that, or do you approve the bump stocks being banned, but do you have issues with other parts of the new legislation?
Well, bump stocks are already banned. There's a federal ban on them, and the governor did a executive ban on them. And the bill, as it was presented, opened up some other things too. I did vote against that one. But for the most part, they're constantly going after the legal gun owner who is obeying the laws and affecting them in the hopes that the illegal gun owners are going to suddenly start obeying laws. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. I want to see it as safe as possible too, but I really think we have to be smart about it and not infringe on the rights of the legal gun owners and people to own guns.
There's an extended waiting period now for some under this.
The waiting period was proposed, it's a 3-day. And I spent some time at Dick's Gun Shop in Churubusco and just watching what they have to do. Anybody that comes in there to buy a gun has to go through all kinds of paperwork and everything, decide on the gun they want. He sends that form to the federal government. He has to write in a book, if the person does buy the gun, who buys it, what their address is, and the date they took it. And then he has to wait for the federal government, the DEA, whatever, to tell him that they can buy, hold, or reject. And they get that back, and that can take up to 3 days. There was a proposal to move it to 10 days, which is reasonable. This bill moved it to 30 days.
And this is the red flag part of the bill. Police officers, educators who have concerns about somebody, whether they could be a risk to someone or themselves. So it raises the question of whether they should be allowed to own a firearm.
Well, you could still call the sheriff's office, or you could call someone and have them watch and be watching someone's website or Facebook or their social media and all. The concern I had with that one was, what happens if the school principal or superintendent doesn't report someone as a high risk? They go and do something, and then they show that, well, you should have recognized that 2 days ago. He said such and such, and you didn't do it. And now that person could be liable for the activities, going forward. So I didn't think it was a well-written bill, and I didn't think that it was really workable.
Does the abortion rights bill only mirror what's in federal law and put the same protections as Roe v. Wade into New York state law?
No, it doesn't. I voted against it. I thought it was unnecessary. The big cry is that if Roe v. Wade is ever eliminated, which I don't believe that it would be, but if it is, that it would eliminate New York's abortion laws. That's not true, because New York's abortion laws were enacted before Roe v. Wade, so they would remain. But there are changes to it that says that the abortion could be performed by any medical professional. It does not designate, could be a dentist, could be, a nurse practitioner, could be a lot of different people. But federal law says that an abortion is to be done by a physician. This goes right up until the date of delivery, that you could have an abortion depending not just on the life of the mother, but on the health of the mother. I mean, the mental health, and there could be things that happen that cause a lot of stress, depression, and I truthfully can't imagine any doctor doing an abortion at that late term. I mean, that is a baby, that is a person. It just seems a little over the top. And I think that what we have is sufficient.
Early voting. You backed early voting.
I did back early voting. I had a bill that would allow you to go to the Board of Elections and vote, and it could be up to 2 weeks before Election Day.
And this allows 10 days?
This allows 10 days, but it's about the same. It's good. It's debatable. They say early voting doesn't bring more voters. But I look back to being a mom, and all the moms and dads that are out there today that have kids in school and sports after school and homework and dinner and all the things that working families have to do, and some of them don't get to vote. It'd be nice. I know my daughter in Tennessee votes at a library.
Another major piece of legislation this session would legalize recreational marijuana use by adults. It was one of the topics at the recent chamber breakfast. Where are you on this?
I haven't decided. The thing that we have to consider is that it's all around us. But because everybody's doing it doesn't mean we should be doing it. I think when I've been involved a lot in the opiate and the drug addiction program, and listened to hearings to young people, and have met with families who have lost family members through overdoses, and we train people with Narcan so they can help save people. And when you talk to anybody involved in that whole realm of healthcare, they'll tell you that marijuana is where most of them started. And so that's a concern. And then, when you talk to law enforcement, there is no test as to when has a person had too much marijuana to inhibit their driving, or influence their work load or work schedule, or what they're doing at work. So there's a lot of unknown questions here.
So a number of questions and concerns about workforce, about impaired driving. Too many questions for it to pass this year. Would it be irresponsible for lawmakers to pass it this year?
I think it needs a lot more work before they pass it, and the reason that all of a sudden that they're looking at it is for the tax revenue that it would generate. Well, that's why we did casino gambling, for all the tax revenue. And we have a lot of casinos that aren't anywhere near what they were supposed to be making in revenue. So.
And the governor said about $300 million would be the estimate for the tax revenue coming in.
That was quite a bit, yeah. I don't know. I really and truly do not know how I'm going to vote on it. I think if it probably came to the floor right now, there's a real progressive movement on the other side of the aisle, and it would probably pass.
Governor Cuomo's budget proposal includes more than $80 million for the Olympic venues in Lake Placid, which you have applauded.
Yes, yeah. It's really important that the venues that we have in Lake Placid from the Olympics are kept up to date, and that they're able to be used for world-class games to attract people to Lake Placid. And also, we have an Olympic training center there that has a budget of between $3 and $4 million that's spent locally every year in the area. But if people don't have the venues, if the ski jumps aren't the right size and the right type and can't be used at the right times, And we're competing with Salt Lake City, Vancouver, many places that have already had Olympics like we did and are trying to generate some revenue from their facilities. So I really applaud the governor for putting more money, put $40 million in last year. So it really promotes the area and keeps our Lake Placid region the winter sports capital of the world, we'd like to say.
And you talked both at the Chamber breakfast this year and also last year about still trying to improve the broadband and the cell service. Cell service has improved dramatically along the Northway. You mentioned there's still the one gap between exits 31 and 32 up here in the North Country. But when the governor was up here a year ago and talked about 100% coverage, what's happened since then? Are we getting ever closer to getting the 100% coverage, or are there still issues that need to be addressed?
Well, there are still issues because we have a lot of places that are really remote, and we still need to try to get them. And many of them have been told that they could get Hughes network. For some people, it is going to have to be an issue that satellite probably is the best that they can get. But on the other hand, there's a lot more work that needs to be done just to get to all of the areas. You drive from Malone to Tupper Lake, and you can get a little bit of cell coverage when you go by Paul Smith College. And other than that, you're pretty much on your own. So it's tough in a lot of areas, and there's more than those areas. They're in Plattsburgh coming from Malone. There's a long stretch with no cell coverage.
And as you point out, in the park, the issue is still the height of towers, that you're
It
questioning
is.
why the towers can't be higher.
Higher. It's not a rule that was made in stone. It is a regulation that was adopted by the APA. And, there are towers that they allowed to be, like behind the neighborhood house in Keene, there's actually a 120-foot tower because the trees were 120 feet. Well, they're probably 125 feet now. So, but you'd have fewer towers. You have fewer, taller towers covering a wider area, and we'd have better coverage.